Hello everyone and welcome to the Kiki London YouTube channel. My name is Amanda and in today's video we're going to be designing a set of press-on nails with an abstract animal print theme. So I really hope you all enjoy watching. To begin with, I have sized up my press-on nails to fit my nails, and I'm then going to come in with the rubber base coat and apply a thin layer of this to the surface of the press-on nails. Now you can buff off the shine before doing this step, but I don't necessarily find it a necessity when I'm working with the rubber base coat, so it's something that I personally skip doing. I just come straight in with a thin layer of rubber base coat. You can also skip the rubber base coat step entirely and just come straight in with your design if you wish as well, but I do like adding a layer of the base coat because I feel as though it gives the press-on nails a little bit of added strength. Once I've applied the rubber base coat, I'm going to pop this in to cure for 30 seconds, and then we're going to move on to applying our gel polish. So I'm going to be using the gorgeous Tea Rose as my nude colour today, and I'm going to be doing this on 3 of the nails. So the middle, the pointer and the ring finger are all going to have a layer of Tea Rose, and then we're going to put our nail art on the top of them. I'm just going to show you guys doing it on one nail because otherwise it would be quite repetitive. So I've applied my thin first coat of colour. I've kept this quite thin, just made sure there's a nice even coat, and then I'm going to come in and do the second coat of colour, again keeping this quite thick because we don't need to build up too much thickness with our layers of gel polish. As you can see, once you come in and apply that second coat of colour, this is such a gorgeous opaque colour. It's got an ever so slight pearl slash shimmer effect to it. It's a really beautiful color. So like I said, I was doing that on 3 of the nails, so off camera I did the other 2 nails. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the tacky inhibition layer from the gel polish there, and I'm going to press on some silver leaf foil. So I've taken my angled detail brush for this. I opted to use the angled detail brush because this particular brush is quite stiff. It's great for things like one stroke. I also quite like it for cleanups as well, but I find it great for applying the gold leaf because where the bristles are a little bit stiff, you're really able to rub them down into that tacky inhibition layer. I didn't want to apply too many of them. I've just applied a scattering amount across the nail, and then over the top of this I'm going to come in with the No White matte top coat. So what I want to do is I want to seal those silver leaf pieces in, and I also want there to be a matte surface for my hand painted nail art because it's a lot easier to paint over a matte surface. So I'm just going to apply a thin coat of this to all of the nail. This will help just give a really smooth surface in case you have got any areas of the silver leaf sticking up. I'm then going to pop that in to cure for 30 seconds, and I did also do the exact same steps on another nail because I want these 2 nails to be fairly similar in the design. So we're now ready to come in and add our hand painted nail art. So let's take a look at the colours I'm going to be using today. They're all from the Pastel Neon collection. So we have a Glow Stick, which is a gorgeous neon yellow, but it's a little bit softer than your classic neon yellow. Then we have a Chick Flik. This is one of the most gorgeous pink colours I have ever come across. It's absolutely perfect for the summer, and just look how well it works with the glow stick. And then to paint on my hand painted nail art, I'm going to be using my trusty Kiki London stripe liner brush. You guys know how much I absolutely love this brush. Just look how thin those bristles are. It makes it perfect for any kind of nail art. So for this particular design, I want to start off by drawing on some abstract shapes. Now, one of the things I love about abstract designs is there's no wrong or right way to do them as such, so just have fun with it. For this particular design, I wanted my shapes to be of the more square slash rectangle feel. I wanted there to be quite bold, crisp lines rather than anything rounded. So what I'm doing is I'm painting on my lines for the outline of my shapes to begin with, and I'm trying to get these as neat as possible with that stripe liner brush. But if you do need to come in and clean them up, then I like to do that using the angled nail art brush with just a tiny amount of alcohol. Then I'm going to colour in this shape. Now on this particular one, I started off using the round nail art brush, but I was doing this set on a really hot sunny day. We're in the middle of a heat wave here in the UK when I was recording this anyway, and it was just so hot. I was shaky, so I just wasn't getting a really neat application using the round nail art brush. So when it comes to doing the other shapes, I stick to using my stripe liner brush just because for how I was working on this particular day, I felt as though it was a lot easier to get a neat application. So once I've finished off doing my first shape, I'm going to come in and do the same on the second shape. This is actually where I was struggling a little bit using the round brush and just thought, do you know what, it'd be easier to stick to that stripe liner brush just because it's a smaller brush, so I've got more control over the product. Usually I would find it a lot easier to colour in with the round nail art brush. I was just really struggling in the heat for this particular set. Now, as I'm drawing on each shape, I am flash curing them for 10 seconds, just so I don't smudge them when I'm working on another area of the nail. Again, this is completely optional and does come down to how confident you are with your hand painting, but I do find a 10-second flash cure really beneficial, especially if you're using the Kiki London Deluxe LED lamp, because it does have a 10-second cure option. When you are flash curing, just make sure you do still do your full 30-second cure whenever you have finished that stage of your design. So here at this point, I've finished the first coat of all of my shapes, so I've popped that in for a full 30-second cure. And now I'm just going to come over these shapes with a second coat of colour just so they really pop against the nail. So again, you can see I'm loading up my stripe liner brush with a generous amount of gel polish, and I'm just going over the shape that we've already created. It's a lot easier to do the second coat than what it is the first coat, but I do find the stripe liner brush really easy to work with. As you can see, when you are creating straight lines, the bristles fan out nicely to help do all the work for you. So I'll just place it down where I want to, and then I'll gently drag it along the nail, and I find it great for creating lines especially. But like I said, if you are a beginner, or if you're having a day like I was today where your application just isn't going as well as possible, I do find the angled nail art brush best for cleaning up. Now in between colours, you'll see I'm cleaning off my brush. It's just out of shot, but I'm basically cleaning off my brush on a dry lint-free pad, just because these colours are quite light, so you're able to just clean them off by running your brush on a lint-free pad. If you do still feel as though you've got a lot of gel polish stuck in your brush, or you're switching from a darker colour to a lighter colour or vice versa, you can also clean off your brush on one of the Kiki London alcohol pads. I find these great just for a bit more of a deeper clean, and because they're the percentage of alcohol that's in them, I don't find them too drying on the brushes either. Another option you can do is run your brush through a clear gel polish, so either your base or a top coat. This will also help pull any of the colour that you've got in your brush out. So here you can see I'm just going over that second coat of glow stick. I really like the stripe liner brush for this step as well, because you can get really close to the edges, especially when you're working on a press-on nails, because it is a little bit different to when you're working on a client. Now that I've finished the abstract patches, I want to draw on my animal print details. So I've taken some of the Kiki London Black Heart, and I'm sticking with my Kiki London stripe liner brush for this step. And I'm simply going to draw on some leopard print spots onto this design. Now, one of the things I love about animal print is, just like abstract, it's a lot of fun to do, and there's not necessarily a wrong or right way to do it. Also, your nail art doesn't need to be super neat, so it's great if you're a beginner starting out in hand painted nail art, because you haven't got to worry too much about creating perfect lines or perfect drawings. So for my leopard prints, I'm basically drawing a circle that's open. So I'm bringing 2 lines around, but I'm not bringing them to meet, just so it replicates that animal print spot. Now, if you look on Pinterest or Google, there's so many different ways and so many different ideas on how to do animal prints. So that's what I usually do, so that each design I can try and mix it up a little bit. But for painting on these dots, I'm basically trying to make sure that the lines I'm drawing on are not too crisp, so I want them to look slightly jagged and rough, so it kind of replicates what leopard print fur would look like, if that makes sense. I didn't want it to look super smooth. I wanted it to have a bit of a blurred edge and a little bit jagged. And then once I've done that, I'm just going to come on and add some dots that haven't got those lines around the edges, as you can see here. And then I'm going to pop that in for a flash 10-second cure, just so I don't smudge it whilst I'm working up in the corner of the nail, or the top of the nail, sorry. So again, as you can see, I'm painting on that sort of semicircle shape and then doing the exact same on the opposite side. And then I just use the very tip of my brush to blend those edges out a little bit, just like I said, so they don't look super neat or super crisp. And I'm just going to repeat this process going around the nail. I wanted the leopard print spots to come over some of the colours, but I didn't want it to completely cover them. So that's why I've gone up one end of the nail and then down the other side, just so you've got the clash of colour underneath and a little bit of the silver foil, but you can still see everything that we've added in all of the different layers. And I absolutely love doing animal print. It's one of my favourite nail designs. I have got another animal print design up on the Kiki London channel, but ever since getting the neon pastel collection, I've been really wanting to do some animal print nails with the neon colours. So that's what I thought I would do today. And I really hope you all enjoy this design. If you do, please don't forget to let me know what you think of it in the comments below, or let me know which nail in this set ends up being your favourite. Once I have finished up those leopard print spots, I'm going to pop that in for a full 30-second cure. And that's what this now looks like so far. I'm going to pop this aside and we will top coat it at the end. Moving on to the third now, I'm going to add in peach side onto this one because I wanted to make sure that we were using at least a couple of the neon pastel colours, and these three colours do work beautifully together. So very similar to the previous now, I'm going to start off by drawing on my abstract shapes. So you'll see here when I'm using my striped liner brush, I'm applying a minimal amount of pressure. I kind of place the brush down on the nail and let it fan out slightly and do a lot of the work for me as I'm dragging it down where I want it to go. And then I'm just colouring in those patches with the same striped liner brush because, like I said, it was a little bit easier than swapping to the round brush. So on this now, I'm going to do our abstract shapes using peach side and glow stick. And I loved how these two colours worked together. So here you can see when I'm working at the very tip of the nail, because I'm using that striped liner brush, I'm able to really nicely go around the tip of the nail so that if you was wearing these, you wouldn't be able to see any of that T-rose at the very tip of the nail. I flash cured that for 10 seconds and then I'm going to do very similar with glow stick. Now one of the things I'm trying to bear in mind is I popped the silver leaf down in quite random patches, so I'm not wanting to cover too much of that up with my gel polish. I kind of like how it looks if it overlaps slightly because it helps give off the dimensional layered effect, but I don't want to be covering it up completely. So I am taking the time to think about where I'm painting on these patches. Again, once I've finished this first coat of colour, I'm going to pop that in for a full 30-second cure and then I'm going to come over the top. I didn't necessarily feel as though the peach side needed a second coat because it did look quite pigmented, but I just felt as though if I was going to do a second coat on the glow stick, I might as well do it on the peach side as well. And it did help really bring it out against the nude colour we've got underneath, which is the tea rose. Now, when it comes to doing your second coat of any hand painted nail art, it is a lot easier than doing the first coat of colour because you have already got your shape created. But one of the things you need to bear in mind is that you're going directly over the top of that colour. You don't want to go slightly off it because then you're going to get a little bit of shadowing between the layers of colour, because some parts of your shape will have one coat and some will have two, if that makes sense. So you want to make sure you're being really careful still when it comes to doing that second coat of colour. So I like to make sure I'm coming in just before where the line would end, and then I'll let the brush fan out a little bit to make this shape for me, or the line for me, depending on what you're painting. And then also being really careful when you're filling in the shape just to be as neat as possible. Now that the second coat of colour is finished, I'm going to pop this in for a full 30-second cure and we're ready to move on to our animal print details. So on the previous one we did spots, so on this one I wanted to do some stripes. So you could kind of see these as either tiger stripes or zebra stripes. I was just going for a more generic striped theme for this particular set, but as you can see I'm just creating a wavy stripes on to the nail. So again, I'm allowing the stripe liner brush to do a lot of the work for me. You'll see when I place it down on the nail, or I'll talk you through the next stripe that we do because it'll be a little bit easier, but I load up my brush with just the gel polish at the very tip and then I place it down and I allow the bristles to fan out. I kind of hold my breath as I do each stripe because hand painting is a little bit tricky. So I'll take a deep breath and then place my brush down onto the nail. As it makes contact, I feel like I slowly breathe out, and then that allows me to have more control over the product. It's just a little technique that I've picked up myself, so give it a go, because I know I find it really tricky to hand paint. It's definitely something that takes a lot of practice, but when you have a good quality brushes, especially like the stripe liner brush, it makes it a lot easier. So you'll see as I place it down on the nail, I'm letting the brush do a lot of the work for me. I'm just keeping my finger anchored as well as I can on my hand that's holding the tip, and then I'm just dragging gently back or forwards depending on the direction that I want the gel polish to go in. So I'm just going to continue these stripes over any of the areas where I've got the colour, because I quite liked how the black looked against the brightness of the neon pastel colours. So that's why on this particular nail I kept my stripes just on those coloured patches. And I thought this now looked really fun. Out of the 3 designs that we do in this particular set, this one was my favourite. I really liked this. Now, if you was doing this as a full set on yourself or on a client, it might look a little bit too much having 3 different designs in one set. So you could just pick one of the nails and do that on 3, if that makes sense. So you could do this one on the pointer, the middle and the ring finger, rather than it being 3 separate designs. For the purpose of the video, I wanted to mix it up a little bit, just so I was showing you guys different techniques and different designs for the set. Now for the 3rd design, which is the middle finger, I wanted to paint on my leopard print spots with the colours. So I've come in with Glow Stick, Chick Flick and Peach Side, and I'm drawing on kind of rough circular shapes, because again, if you think of a leopard print spot, it doesn't look like a perfect circle. They're quite rough and jaggedy, so that's what I'm trying to replicate with my gel polish colours. I've then flash cured them for 10 seconds. I'm just coming around the edges of them with the black heart, again trying my best not to keep it too neat. You want wavy jagged lines so they look a little bit more realistic, although I don't know many leopards with neon spots, but you get what I mean. You just don't want it to look too neat and crisp, because then I just feel as though it doesn't look as good as when it's a little bit more messy. So that's why I'm taking my time, just wriggling the brush ever so slightly to create that jagged effect. Following the shape of the dot makes it a little bit easier as well. So whatever shape, rough shape you've created with your dot, just follow that with your black gel polish. And then you can also come back over them and blend them out a little bit more before popping them into cure if you wish. Now here I did make a little bit of a mistake with my black gel polish, so I've just taken one of the Kiki London alcohol pads and very carefully just wiped off what I want to remove, and then I'm able to come straight back in and recreate it again just a little bit neater. So now that we've finished the outlines, I always like to add in some plain spots whenever I'm doing anything animal print, just to help add a few more little details, and I feel as though it brings the design together a little bit more rather than the dots looking like they're just plonked on the nail. So I'm just again coming in like we did with the coloured spots, but I'm doing them a lot smaller, making sure that they're not too circular. I then pop those spots in for a 10-second flash cure, and I'm now going to come in and do the stripes down the lower half of the nail. So I wanted the stripes to be very similar to the spots. I wanted there to be the coloured stripes with the black detail. So I'm painting these on very similar to how I painted on the black stripes in the previous one, but I'm trying to keep them spaced out a little bit, just so that I know I can come in and outline them and then leave a little gap in between in case I want to add any plain black ones. So at this point it looks a little bit random, but it does all tie together. I then pop that now in for a full 30-second cure, and then I'm going to come in and add the black details. You could have just done a flash cure here, but I decided to go and do a full cure just because the black gel polish from the spots that I'd done at the top of the nail, the black gel polish is very highly pigmented, so sometimes with a flash cure you can still end up smudging it. So I decided to go in with a full cure there just because it was a hot day and my hands were very shaky, and the last thing I wanted to do was smudge anything. On the other side, because I'd done the peach side and the chick flick on the first stripes, I decided to just come in with the glow stick on this side. So again, just painting on those stripes. The stripes are so simple to paint on. I just go down one side, down the other side, and then a line down the center. Then I've cured those, and then I'm going to come in and do our details. The details are a little bit tricky here because you don't want to end up going too close to the previous stripes you've drew on. So I'm just taking my time, allowing the brush to do all the work. As you can see, I place it down and then ever so slightly drag. I'm doing this quite slowly, but I have sped up the video. So one of the things I would say when you are doing hand painted nail art is take your time. If you've got clients who are pushed for time or they can only book for an hour slot, hand painted nail art might not be for them, especially if you're going to feel rushed. It does need a little bit more time compared to a regular gel polish set. So don't put too much pressure on yourself to get it done quickly. And now this is what our 3 designs looked like so far. Now, because they had a lot of heavy nail art, I wanted to keep the ring finger and the thumbnail nice and plain, just so it doesn't look too over the top, and the 2 plain nails kind of frame the set, if that makes sense. I loved how the 3 fun designs looked. They were really fun to create, and I think they'd be a really fun set to wear, but I felt as though it would be a little bit too much to then add nail art on to the thumb and the little finger. So I've kept them plain glow stick. I've painted on and cured that first coat of colour, so we're then going to come in and add our second coat of colour. Now these neon colours are quite highly pigmented, so work nice and thin with them and then you won't have any wrinkling issues. I like to work nice and thin with all of my gel polishes, but the highly pigmented ones especially I find apply a lot nicer if you add them in thin coats of colour. So once I've applied that second coat of colour, I'm going to pop these in to cure for 30 seconds and we're then ready to come in and top coat. Now I'm going to be top coating all of the nails today with the Kiki London No Wipe Matte Top Coat, just because I'm going to be wearing this set of nails myself and I absolutely love a matte finish. Now one thing I did want to say, I didn't actually show it on camera because I forgot to hit record, but when I use the Kiki London Black Heart for nail art, I like to remove the tacky layer before I come in and apply my matte top coat. Because it's very pigmented, sometimes the tacky inhibition layer that's left after curing can smudge when you apply your matte top coat. So before applying that matte top coat, I just wiped over them with one of the Kiki London alcohol pads. I don't do this if I'm doing a full black nail, it is more only if I'm doing nail art with the black. So I've wiped over them and then I'm coming in and applying a thin layer of the matte top coat to all of the nails. Now as you can see, the matte top coat goes on glossy, so it gives you an idea of what this set would look like if we'd have kept them glossy. But we then pop them in to cure for 30 seconds and how gorgeous do they look matte. I absolutely loved how these turned out, so I really hope you all enjoyed watching. If you did, then please don't forget to give the video a thumbs up or leave me a comment below, and if you're not already subscribed, I would absolutely love it if you hit that subscribe button. Thank you all so much for watching. Lots of love. Bye bye.